Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here again, digging into wisdom that stands the test of time. In our last few deep dives, we really spent a lot of time on that first Stoic discipline, didn't we? Mastering our perceptions, getting those internal judgments, those first impressions, kind of sorted out, really understanding our own minds. But okay, once you've got that internal clarity, once you can filter those knee-jerk reactions, what's next? I mean, where do you go from there? The logical step, the really essential one, it seems, is thinking about how you act on that understanding, how you bring it out into the world. It's not just enough to think clearly, is it? We've got to live clearly, too.
Exactly. It's the perfect transition.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just an intellectual exercise. It's fundamentally about doing. So today, we're shifting focus. We're diving into the second Stoic discipline, action. And this discipline, well, it's the bedrock, really. It governs how we interact with other people, how we understand our duty, our place in the world. It guides us in acting virtuously, upholding ethics, pursuing justice, making those right choices moment by moment in whatever situation you find yourself in. It's all about turning that inner wisdom into outward impact.
And wow, the sources we're drawing on for this, it's quite a list, spans centuries. We've got the big names from Roman Stoicism, obviously, Seneca, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, plus the incredibly practical Musonius Rufus. But we're also pulling in some interesting threads from elsewhere. Modern thinkers like Viktor Frankl, his insights are just profound. And even going way back to texts like the Dhammapada and maybe a bit surprising Machiavelli, too. It's a rich mix.
It really is. And our mission today, essentially, is to pull out the most important, most practical guidance on how to live properly. How do you actually do ethical conduct? How do you navigate your interactions, your relationships? What does it mean for you, listening right now, to act with purpose, with integrity? Not just sometimes, but, consistently. We want to figure out how we translate that inner calm, that clear perception we talked about before, into real-world, meaningful, virtuous action. The foundation of right action, virtue, happiness, and control.
Okay, let's start unpacking this. Because when we talk about living well today, happiness often means, feeling good, right? Moments of joy, pleasure. But for the Stoics, it wasn't just about those fleeting good feelings, was it? Not just chasing pleasure. They had something much bigger, much deeper in mind for what a truly good life actually looks like, something that lasts.
That's such a critical point to start with. Yeah, they didn't define happiness as eudaimonia, that sort of fleeting pleasure. Their word was eudaimonia. Gets translated different ways: human flourishing, living well. Literally means something like having a good guardian spirit. It's about this deep, abiding well-being that, crucially, doesn't depend on what's happening around you. It's understood across your whole life. Think of like the North Star for their ethics, a fixed point to navigate by, whatever the weather. And achieving this eudaimonia, it's only possible through stability and control in exercising our agency, our ability to choose and act. Because what we choose, how we act, that's the only thing truly, fully in our control. And for the Stoics, virtue. Well, virtue is both necessary and sufficient for eudaimonia, meaning you absolutely need virtue to flourish, and if you have virtue, you are flourishing, regardless of external circumstances, as long as you can still exercise that agency, that choice. Now, that might sound really strange to us. Imagine losing everything, your money, your health, maybe even your freedom. Yet if you still choose to respond with wisdom, justice, courage, moderation, the Stoics would say you are still eudaimon. Your inner character, your virtue is untouched, and that is your happiness.
So wait, if I'm getting this right, the virtues aren't just like tools you use to get happy. They're the happiness. They're the stuff it's made of.
Precisely. You've got it. The virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, moderation. They're final goods, not just instrumental ones.
Yeah.
They are the means to happiness, yes, but they are also the excellences that happiness consists of. Think about, say, learning an instrument. Practice is instrumental. It helps you get skilled. But being skilled, playing well, that's the final good, right? For the Stoics, wanting eudaimonia means wanting virtue for its own sake, because happiness is living virtuously. And this moral life, this self-fulfillment, it isn't selfish. It extends outwards. It's about finding harmony between your own nature and the nature of the cosmos, the good of all rational beings.
It sounds like they also had a really positive view of human nature itself, which, again, might surprise people who picture Stoics as, kind of grim. They weren't saying we need to fight our nature, but actually live in line with it.
Yes, quite optimistic, actually. They believe humans are naturally rational, naturally virtuous, and, importantly, naturally decent social animals. We're wired for goodness, for community. That's our default setting, you could say. So unhappiness, distress, that feeling of unease that comes when we live out of sync with these natural inclinations, when we act irrationally or unvirtuously or harm our social bonds. The path to eudaimonia is really about living according to our deepest nature, letting that inherent goodness come through, like a plant fulfilling its potential.
Okay, so this means, for you listening, true happiness isn't found in chasing those highs that come and go or piling up stuff that can vanish tomorrow. It's about building that unshakable character, aligning your actions with that deeper sense of self, of community, a purpose that comes from inside. It's a very active thing, isn't it? An internal job of becoming your best self. Day in, day out. And this is where it gets really practical, I think, because Epictetus, one of the absolute giants, gives us this foundational tool for action. People often call it a mental filing system for life, the dichotomy of control. And it seems absolutely central to this whole discipline of action.
Oh, absolutely fundamental. Epictetus basically said this idea should stay with us in every moment of our lives, never leave home without it. That's how crucial he thought it was. He wants us to divide everything, absolutely everything, into two categories, two mental files. First, things up to us. Things entirely within our control, our sphere of influence, what's in that file. Our opinions, our aims, our desires, our aversions, what we choose to move towards or away from. Our own grief, our own joy, our judgments about things, our attitude, our own good and evil. These things, Epictetus says, deserve our total concern and involvement, because here you are completely free. Then there's the second file, things not up to us, things fundamentally beyond our direct control. What's in there? Well, pretty much everything external. Our bodies, their health, their appearance, our property, other people, what they think, what they do, commodities, political power, illness, poverty, death itself, even others' opinions of us. Epictetus warns that wanting these things, pinning our well-being on them, is a recipe for disaster. It leads straight to fear, anxiety, frustration, disappointment. Because you're trying to control the uncontrollable.
That's such a clear distinction, a filter for basically everything that happens.
Yeah.
But is it always that clean cut? What about something like, say, a serious illness? It feels totally out of my control, but it impacts me hugely. Doesn't that blur the lines a bit?
That's a fair question. The impact can be absolutely massive, no doubt. But the Stoic insight here is subtle but powerful. While the illness itself is external, not up to you, your response to it, your judgment about it, your attitude towards it, the actions you take because of it, that is always, always within your power. Epictetus actually gave this core faculty of choice a name, prohairesis, our volition, our will. He called it the locus of all that truly matters for us. It's that inner self, that part of you with reason, desire, intention, self-awareness. Perfecting that is the human good, the goal of his teaching. He even saw this autonomy as a special gift from God, from that rational principle woven through nature, and attaching yourself to externals, getting upset about things not up to you. He was blunt. It's a certain recipe for disappointment, anxiety, and unhappiness. Why? Because you're basically handing over your inner freedom.
Okay, so practically speaking then, how does this dichotomy of control actually guide what we do, day-to-day actions?
It means that if you hang your happiness, your sense of self-worth, your peace of mind on things you don't ultimately control, maybe it's a specific relationship working out exactly how you want, or getting that particular job, or having a certain amount of money, or even looking a certain way, you effectively hand over your happiness to the whims of something or someone else. You become, in a way, enslaved to externals. So this principle guides all ethical action. It ensures you pour your energy where it actually counts, into your choices, your judgments, your responses, where your moral responsibility really lies. It helps you see where to focus your efforts, and just as importantly, where not to waste them. And that builds real inner strength. Self-possession, too. Navigating relationships.
The social and right. So when we talk about action, a massive part of that is how we act towards other people in our relationships. And this might surprise some listeners, you know. People often picture Stoics as these cold, detached figures, emotionless, isolated. But they actually had pretty strong views on relationships, didn't they? Even on marriage. Would it kind of bucks that stereotype of the unfeeling block of stone?
Oh, absolutely. It's a really fascinating, often misunderstood part of Stoicism. Now, it's true that some philosophers like Epicurus and even some early Stoics had, let's say, misgivings about sex. They saw its power as potentially destructive. One even said it has never done a man good, and he is lucky if it has not harmed him. Mostly because it could stir up really powerful, irrational passions and pull you away from reason, right? But it's not really a contradiction if you grasp their emphasis on social duty, on living according to our nature as social beings. Musonius Rufus, who was Epictetus' teacher, actually put it beautifully. He taught that a wise person will marry, not just out of passion, but because it's a rational choice, a duty, even a path to virtue. He pictured a good marriage as this loving union where the two people will try to outdo each other in the care they show for each other. Imagine that. He even said a husband and wife should work hard to keep each other happy. That speaks to real commitment. deep respect, not detachment. They saw marriage as a partnership for improving each other, for raising children, for stabilizing society, all fitting with our rational social nature.
That feels surprisingly modern, actually, for their time. It's not about shutting down pleasure, then. It's about building this foundation of mutual care, commitment, seeing that itself as a virtuous act. It really blows up that whole unfeeling blocks of stone image, doesn't it? Shows a real appreciation for the social side of life, how our closest relationships are places to practice virtue. But relationships aren't always smooth sailing, are they? We all deal with insults, slights, little ones, big ones. You know, that snarky comment at work or something genuinely hurtful from someone you care about. What's the Stoic game plan for those moments when someone's words land and your first instinct is just to fire back?
Yeah, they definitely thought about this, recognizing how pointless and, frankly, self-defeating it is to get dragged into petty fights. They generally advocated non-response, or at least a very measured, calm response. Musonius Rufus, again, he's great on this practical stuff. He suggests we should calmly and quietly bear what has happened. Or, even simpler, offer no response at all. He points out this is appropriate behavior for a person who wants to be magnanimous, big-souled, noble. It's not about being weak or letting people walk over you. It's about protecting your own inner peace, choosing not to descend to that level. And he points out the practicality, too. It requires no thought. Even the most slow-witted person on the planet can respond in this manner. It's simple, but really effective for keeping your cool. Epictetus, of course, ties it straight back to the dichotomy of control. Look, as long as you know you've acted rightly, virtuously, the fact that someone else disapproves or insults you or misunderstands you, that's their problem, he says, not yours. Remember, others' opinions are up to them. They're external events. Your reaction, that's internal. That's your choice.
So instead of just reacting on impulse, basically letting someone else hijack your emotions, you get to choose a response that keeps your own peace, your integrity. You refuse to let their words control your state of mind or drag you into some pointless battle you can't really win anyway. It's about choosing your own response, your own dignity over that gut reaction. Okay, so beyond those one-on-one relationships, Stoicism really zooms out, doesn't it, to our place in the wider world. Our role in the whole social fabric seems much bigger than just family and friends. It's a very expansive view of our duties.
Absolutely. That's one of the truly beautiful parts of the philosophy. It's just full of goodness, gentleness, love for human beings, and attention to the common good. The core idea is that we are, by nature, social creatures with a natural affection toward other people. We're built for community, for cooperation. So the goal isn't just your own individual virtue in isolation. It's to be useful to help others. It's to take care of ourselves and everybody else. We should aim to treat even strangers and those who oppose us as relatives, seeing ourselves as citizens of the same world. This idea of universal kinship, of cosmopolitanism being a citizen of the cosmos, it's fundamental Stoic action. It breaks down those artificial us versus them barriers. There's this great image from Hierocles, another Stoic. He described concentric circles of concern. Imagine you're at the very center. The next circle out is your immediate family, then extended family, then neighbors, fellow citizens, your country, and the outermost circle, all humankind. The Stoic practice, he said, is to constantly try and pull those outer circles inward, to expand your empathy, your sense of responsibility, to embrace everyone. This isn't just some nice thought. This is basically the philosophical origin of modern cosmopolitanism. It was radical then, and it's still pretty radical now.
Wow, those expanding circles. That's a powerful visual. So how does that actually play out? How do we live that in our communities, especially when the world feels so divided sometimes?
Well, one clue is why philosophers back then tended to group together in schools, like the one Epictetus ran. They created communities for mutual learning and support. It implies that for you, it's probably wise to spend time with those whose values you share or admire. Because, as they recognized, no one can be happy isolated and cut off from other people. It is simply against our nature as these social creatures. Our ethical growth gets boosted, reinforced, when we're around people who challenge us, support us, hold us accountable. And this duty to community definitely includes acting for justice. But crucially, not out of anger or resentment, but from a clear, rational sense of what's right. Seneca, for instance, advised acting calmly from loyalty, duty, or justice, not anger, even when facing injustice. Anger clouds judgment. Duty clarifies it. Marcus Aurelius talked about being good and tolerant toward others and trying to gently teach others how to follow a better course of action rather than just condemning them. And think about someone like Helvidius Priscus, a Stoic senator who stood up to Emperor Vespasian, defending the Senate's rights. He knew the risks it ultimately cost him his life, but he acted out of duty, out of principle, for the common good. His action wasn't emotional. It was a rational commitment to justice, whatever the personal cost.
So it really drives home that you are part of something much bigger. Your actions create ripples. Your ethical responsibilities stretch way beyond your immediate circle. It's a call to get involved virtuously in the human project, recognizing that connection we all share and acting from that place of duty and care. 3, mastering negative emotions in adversity. Okay, let's talk about those tougher emotions. Anger, frustration, resentment, we've all been there. They can feel like these huge waves just washing over us, totally out of our control. But the Stoics had a really specific way of looking at these feelings, and honestly, it feels incredibly empowering. They didn't see them as these irrational forces we just have to suffer through.
Exactly. This is another one of those core Stoic insights that really sets them apart. Thinkers like Chrysippus, a major figure in early Stoicism, argued that emotions don't come from some separate irrational part of our soul, like Plato thought. No, they stem from mistaken judgments, faulty value judgments, essentially. They believed all errors, all wrongdoing could be traced back to getting these judgments wrong. Like if you judge something external, money, reputation, someone else's opinion to be supremely good or evil, and then it's threatened or taken away, that's when the disruptive passions flare up. So the key is to challenge that initial judgment. Seneca wrote a whole book on anger. He called it temporary madness, a disease of the body characterized by swelling. He vividly described the physical signs, the racing heart, temperature rising, palpitations, sweating. We all know that feeling, right? And crucially, he noted that once those physical symptoms kick in, once anger really takes hold of your body, there's nothing we can do to make them go away except wait, just ride out the storm, which really highlights how important it is to intervene early, before the emotion hijacks your physiology.
That's fascinating. Emotions as judgments, not just raw feelings. So if I'm tracking this, it's not about trying to not feel anything at all, like a robot. It's more about questioning the interpretation, the meaning you assign to an event before it triggers the big emotional response.
Precisely. Chrysippus explained the inner conflict reason versus passion, not as two separate armies fighting, but as a turning of the one logos to both aspects. Think of logos as your rational mind, your inner operating system. Usually it processes things clearly, virtuously, but when faced with a sudden strong impression, maybe an insult, a loss if your logos makes a quick, unexamined, faulty judgment like this is terrible, this ruins everything, it momentarily becomes unsound. And that unsound, faulty judgment is what generates the negative emotion. So the power lies in catching and examining that first impression, that automatic judgment, before you assent to it.
Okay, so understanding that emotions arise from your judgments gives you the power to question those judgments, to challenge them, and potentially stop the negative emotion before it even gets going, before it manifests physically and takes over. It's about getting to the root cause, training your logos to stay sound, stay rational, even when things get tough. And things do get tough. Life throws curveballs. Sometimes really awful stuff happens. The Stoics weren't just about passively accepting whatever came their way, though. They had really practical, proactive techniques for handling adversity. Let's start with one that sounds a bit dark, maybe. Premeditation of evils. Premeditatio malorum. Rehearsing bad things. Sounds grim, but it's actually super practical, right?
It really is. And yeah, the name sounds morbid, but the practice is incredibly powerful for building psychological resilience. It's far from being about dwelling on negativity. Seneca recommended briefly rehearsing potential negative events in your mind before they occur. The logic is, if that thing then actually happens, maybe, you lose your job, face public criticism, get sick, well, you'll be mentally prepared for it and the emotional shock will be significantly reduced. You're not caught totally flat-footed. You've kind of visited that territory in your mind already. He used the analogy of a fire drill as a schoolchild. You practice for the emergency not because you want the fire, obviously, but because rehearsing increases your ability to cope, helps you think through what you do, lets you respond more clearly if the real thing ever happens. It's like mental inoculation. By facing the worst-case scenario in your imagination, you often realize, okay, that would be bad, but I could probably handle it. And you've already sort of processed the potential emotional hit. It shifts panic towards preparedness, towards calm decision-making.
That's brilliant, actually. So this technique allows you to build resilience proactively, to turn that free-floating anxiety about what might happen into concrete preparation. It's like facing your fears mentally to rob them of their power in reality, turning a potential ambush into a planned response. And this technique, it seems to connect to a bigger Stoic idea, doesn't it? About accepting fate, accepting nature's plan, our place in the universe. It's not just about what might happen, but also accepting what will inevitably happen to everyone.
Exactly. This is where the wider Stoic cosmology provides real comfort and a framework for understanding. Marcus Aurelius is just beautiful on this. He advises saying to nature, give what you will, Take back what you will. An attitude of humble acceptance. He argued that complaining about inevitable things, aging, loss, eventually death, is totally pointless. It will only generate further distress and simply displays a failure to grasp the way the world works. It's like arguing with gravity. You're fighting reality itself, and reality always wins. Seneca made a similar point. He said it's just illogical to think, oh, misfortune won't happen to me, when we see it happening to others all the time. It's irrational to expect one's luck to hold out forever, he warned. Better to prepare for every eventuality. Remember, for the Stoics, God wasn't some capricious being doling out rewards and punishments. God was the rational order of nature itself. And fate wasn't superstition, it was the fate of physics, the logical unfolding of cause and effect in the universe, a grand rational design. So accepting this rational order isn't resignation, it's liberation. It frees you from struggling against the unchangeable and lets you align with how things actually are.
So you can find real peace by understanding that some things are just part of the natural flow, beyond your control. Your energy then is much better spent focusing on what you can control, your judgments, your actions, your responses, rather than wasting it fighting the inevitable tide. It's about knowing the difference. Now, this idea of finding meaning, even in the absolute worst circumstances, it really resonates with ancient wisdom, but we get such a powerful modern perspective from Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist, Holocaust survivor. His whole approach, logotherapy, feels remarkably Stoic at its heart.
Yes, the parallels are incredibly striking. It really shows how universal and timeless these core insights are. Frankl, drawing directly on his experiences in the Nazi concentration camps, unimaginable suffering, developed logotherapy, a school of psychotherapy focused on meaning, his core insight. Meaning reveals itself within living values, even in the presence of suffering. He chillingly observed that the prisoner who had lost faith in the future, his future was doomed. What kept people going, he found, was having a why, a meaning to hold on to. Maybe reuniting with a loved one, finishing a piece of work, or simply bearing witness, something that gave their suffering a purpose. Frankl identified three main paths to finding meaning, even when trapped. 1. Creative values, finding meaning through doing, achieving, creating something, making a contribution, however small. 2. Experiential values, finding meaning by experiencing something, beauty in nature, art, or profound connection, and love for another person. 3. And this is crucial, attitudinal values, finding meaning by choosing your attitude towards unavoidable suffering, how you choose to face your fate. That, he argued, is the last of the human freedoms, the one that can never be taken away. So logotherapy is fundamentally education toward responsibility. It helps people find the courage to face this suffering with grace and dignity. He also talked about a super meaning, acknowledging that sometimes life feels meaningless because we fail to grasp the ultimate meaning, something bigger than our minds can fully comprehend, a kind of trust in a larger purpose. And one of his techniques, paradoxical intention, where you actually encourage someone with anxiety wish for the thing they fear, that often makes the fear dissolve. It's pure stoicism in practice, facing fear to disarm it.
Wow, it just shows that even when circumstances are completely, horrifically beyond your control, your attitude, your search for meaning, those remain incredibly pertinent actions you can take. Actions that preserve your dignity, your purpose, your inner freedom, even when everything else is stripped away. It's an incredible testament to the human spirit's power to find a why. Okay, so adversity. It's not just something to endure or find meaning in afterwards. The Stoics went further, didn't they? Bad things aren't just bad, they saw them differently.
Not just differently, radically differently. Seneca especially proposed this really challenging reframe. He suggested that God, or the rational universe, will send the toughest challenges only to the most worthy individuals. Meaning, facing adversity could actually be seen as a mark of having a virtuous character, like a badge of honor, a divine test maybe, or an opportunity to show your mettle. He contrasted this sharply with luxury and ease. Excessive good fortune is in fact really bad for us, he argued. Why? Because it makes us lazy, complacent, ungrateful, and greedy. We get soft. We expect things to be easy. Adversity, on the other hand, is an opportunity to learn something about ourselves and to improve our characters. It's the very ground where virtues like patience, courage, or resilience are cultivated. Think about it. You can't practice courage if there's nothing to fear, right? You can't develop patience if there are no delays or frustrations. The external event itself is neutral, indifferent. What matters is how you respond, what you make of it, how you choose to use it. Epictetus advised paying minimal attention to the external event itself, keeping your focus squarely on our own judgments. What is in your control?
So you can actually reframe difficulties. See them not just as burdens or bad luck, but as opportunities, chances to forge stronger character, to demonstrate virtue in action. Every challenge becomes like a workout for your soul, an invitation to grow stronger, better. Not just something to get through, but something to use. It's a personal gym for your character, isn't it, IB? The role of self-reflection and practice. Okay, these are big, profound ideas, amazing philosophies. But how do we actually make them stick? How do we move from just understanding them in our heads to actually living them consistently, day after day?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And this is where the discipline of action becomes a really hands-on, daily, even moment-by-moment practice. Epictetus hammered this home. He talked about Rousseau's constant, continual attention to these Stoic rules for living and the roles we play in life. That basic principle of the dichotomy of control, he insisted, should stay with us in every moment of our lives, never leave home without it. It needs to be like a filter you run everything through. He really pushed for Socratic self-examination, constantly asking yourself questions like, am I also guilty of the same faults I see in others? And if so, how do I stop? This kind of rigorous honesty prevents self-deception, keeps you aligned with your values. We know Marcus Aurelius did this. His meditation started as private notebook jottings, recording his own struggles to apply these ideas. He recommended morning and evening reflections. Morning, review your principles, prepare for the challenges ahead. Evening, review your day. How did you measure up? Epictetus used this great metaphor of keeping these maxims close to hand, ready to recall in the morning, at the end of the day, and during the night. They need to become second nature.
That's incredibly practical. So for you listening, the encouragement is to make this kind of philosophical self-check-in a constant companion. Use it to steer your actions, track your progress, not just thinking about it, but making it a live, active practice that shapes who you're becoming. And if we really want to change our behavior to embody these virtues, wisdom, justice, courage, moderation, it really comes down to building habits then. It's not like flipping a switch. It's a consistent, deliberate effort, like building muscle.
It's exactly like building muscle. The Stoics totally understood the power of habit long before modern psychology caught on. Epictetus taught, every habit and faculty is preserved and increased by its corresponding actions. Simple, but profound. Want to be more courageous? You have to act courageously even when it's hard. Want patience? Practice patience when you're frustrated. And the flip side, if you don't want, say, an angry temper, then don't feed the habit. Don't let that first faulty judgment, this is outrageous, take root. Don't rehearse angry thoughts in your head. Instead, he advised, actively reckon the days in which you have not been angry. Keep track of your successes. This process, he said, first weakened the old, unhelpful habit, and then, over time, it's eventually overridden by a wiser response. It's such a practical roadmap for character change. It shows that virtue isn't some fixed trait you either have or don't. It's a skill. It's cultivated through practice. Consistent, deliberate reps, you're literally rewiring your brain.
That really shows you that living ethically isn't one big heroic decision. It's actually the sum of lots of small, consistent actions. Actions that slowly, steadily reshape your character over time, building a stronger, more virtuous version of yourself. One choice, one interaction, one day at a time. That feels very doable, empowering. And it sounds like this journey isn't really meant to be done alone either. The Stoics talked a lot about community, learning together. It feels tough to try and build all this virtue in a vacuum, doesn't it?
Oh, incredibly tough. Probably impossible, actually. You see it, historically. Philosophers in antiquity tended to group together into schools, like Epictetus had his school. They knew, deep down, how much our environment, our companions, influence us. Our character isn't formed in isolation. It's shaped by who we hang out with, the conversations we have, the examples we see around us. So the advice is pretty clear. It may be best to avoid the company of those whose lives embody everything you are trying to escape. People whose habits or values drag you down. Instead, try to spend time with those whose values you share or admire. People who inspire you, who hold you to a higher standard. Because remember, no one can be happy isolated and cut off from other people. It is simply against our nature as social beings. Our ethical development thrives when we're supported, challenged, and encouraged by others on a similar path. It's a shared endeavor.
So you can really tap into the power of community, whether that's friends, family, mentors, even online groups, to strengthen your commitment to living virtuously. Find encouragement, find accountability, find shared purpose. It makes the journey easier, richer. Choose your company wisely. V, confronting the master fear, death. Okay, let's tackle a big one. Death. It's a tough topic for most of us, something we instinctively shy away from. But the Stoics, they faced it head on with a really unique perspective. Not with fear, not with morbid obsession, but almost as a tool, a motivator to live better.
That's exactly it. A tool for living well. The Stoics contemplated their own mortality, not because they longed for death, but because they want to get the most out of life. Their logic is pretty straightforward, actually. Someone who thinks they will live forever is far more likely to waste his days, right, on trivial stuff, putting things off, chasing endless desires. Compare that to someone who truly gets that their time is finite, limited, precious. That famous line, live each day as if it were your last. It's not about being reckless or morbid. It's about extracting the full value of that day, focusing on what really matters, acting with purpose, with urgency, not wasting the moment. Seneca was particularly strong on this. He argued that overcoming the fear of death is absolutely essential to becoming free.
Yeah.
Once you conquer that master fear, as he called it, then other fears lose their power too. I mean, if you can face your own end with calm acceptance, then things like losing money or what people think of you or minor setbacks, they seem much smaller, don't they? He asked, what is more disgraceful than being overwhelmed with worry at the very threshold of tranquility? That fear of death, he saw it as the ultimate psychological chain. Break it, and you find incredible freedom to just live.
So you can actually flip that fear around. Turn the fear of death into this powerful fuel for living purposefully, for appreciating every moment you have. Instead of letting it paralyze you or make you chase distractions, use it as a catalyst to live more fully, more authentically, right now. And part of that is also just accepting what is, isn't it? Seeing death as natural, unavoidable, not some kind of cosmic error or punishment.
Precisely. It brings us right back to accepting fate, the dichotomy of control. Epictetus pointed out how senseless it is to feel aversion towards things like poverty, illness, or death itself. Why? Because they're fundamentally outside of our complete control. He reminds us, illness, death, they're just natural and unavoidable aspects of human existence. To fight them, to rage against them is like fighting the tide. It's exhausting, pointless, and only creates more suffering. It's arguing with nature itself. Marcus Aurelius offered this incredible perspective for comfort. He saw death as nothing else but the resolution of those elements of which every creature is composed. Just a rearranging of atoms, essentially. He reasoned, look, the elements themselves, earth, air, fire, water, they don't suffer when they change form, right? They're in perpetual conversion. So why should it be feared by any? Is not this according to nature, but nothing that is according to nature can be evil? By embracing death as just, part of the natural cycle, part of the rational order of the cosmos, we free ourselves from arguably humanity's deepest fear. We align our will with the way things are.
So by accepting death as a natural, inevitable part of your existence, you can actually shed a huge source of anxiety and free up all that mental, emotional energy to focus on living virtuously, purposefully, right here, right now. It's like the ultimate act of acceptance leading to the ultimate freedom.
Wow, okay. We have really covered some ground today, exploring how this Stoic discipline of action guides us. From the foundations, what a good life even is, what's truly in our control, all the way to handling relationships, dealing with adversity, seeing challenges as opportunities. And it's all held together by constant practice, self-reflection, and even that mindful acceptance of mortality. It's such a rich, practical philosophy, not just for back then, but for you right now.
Absolutely. What we've really seen is that living the right way, the Stoic way, it isn't passive. It's not just thinking nice thoughts. It's an active, ongoing, moment-by-moment choice. It's about consciously applying those virtues, wisdom, justice, courage, moderation, to every single thing you face, every interaction, every challenge. It's a call to really embody your best self through what you do, driven by that deep understanding of what matters and what's genuinely up to you, your choices, your prohairesis.
So what does this all boil down to? For you, listening, going about your day, it means your real power, your true agency. It doesn't lie in trying to control everything out there, those external outcomes. Often out of reach, always changing. No, the real power lies in mastering your internal responses, your judgments, aligning your will with virtue. That's the ultimate freedom. And it's found inside not by changing the world, but changing how you engage with it.
So maybe the final thought, the provocative question for you to take away is this. If real happiness, that deep eudaimonia, isn't found in your circumstances, but in how virtuously you exercise your will, the choices you make moment by moment. How consistently are you actually choosing to exercise that will for the common good, for your own deepest fulfillment, especially when nobody's watching? What's one small action guided by wisdom or justice or courage or moderation, just one small thing you can do today that truly reflects the best version of yourself and takes a step towards that flourishing life?